Sugar addiction is real, and you may be suffering from this condition without even realizing it. Welcome to 5 things that happen to your body when you quit sugar. I'm Judd Resnick, director of That Diabetes documentary, and lately I've been wondering, what exactly happens inside your body if you remove added sugars and other simple sugars from your diet? Does it create dramatic, positive changes, or will it actually make little to no difference at all? That's why I've looked into this topic to find the truth about quitting sugar. Can it truly help you reduce your blood sugar, your insulin resistance, and your risk of developing other health issues? Let's explore the science behind sugar addiction and what happens once you break free of this potentially deadly habit. These are 5 things that happen to your body when you quit sugar. It's important to understand that while sugar in general is converted to glucose inside your body and then sent through your bloodstream as a source of fuel for your muscle cells, not all sugar is exactly the same. Complex carbohydrate foods, including whole wheat products, whole fruits, and even fresh vegetables, give you long-chain sugars, which take a while for your body to digest, thus slowing the introduction of glucose into your bloodstream. Simple sugar foods, including white breads, cookies, candies, sodas, fruit juices, potato chips, and even some store-sold sauces, are rapidly digested. That's why they may create a blood sugar spike and potentially lead to many other diabetes-related health problems. And studies show that, yes, you can become addicted to consuming simple sugar products. In fact, an animal study published in the journal Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews suggested that consuming sugar can trigger the release of opioids and dopamine, potentially inducing addiction-like behaviors. And a review from the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that animal study data showed a significant overlap between the consumption of added sugars and drug-like effects, including heightened cravings, sugar food binging, and withdrawal symptoms. But I wanted to know, what really happens if you break free from a sugar addiction? What physiological changes can this create for your body? Well, let's answer that question, starting with maybe the most obvious benefit. It can improve your weight management. Recent studies have revealed that sugar consumption is associated with heightened cravings for more sweets, like candies and cookies, and alcoholic beverages, especially for individuals recovering from alcohol use disorders. So, consuming added sugar may create an increased desire to eat even more sugar and other less than healthy and addictive foods, which may then lead to weight gain. But what is the food product which may give you the most amount of addictive added sugar per serving? Well, research points squarely to sugar-sweetened beverages, like sodas and fruit juices, as the single largest source of added sugar and the top source of energy intake in the current US diet. In fact, the journal Circulation noted that over the past 30 years, total calorie intake has increased by an average 150 to 300 calories per day, with 50% of those calories coming from liquid sugar, strongly linking added sugar, especially from sugary beverages, with increased caloric intake and weight gain. The journal Obesity Review found that higher intake of sugar-sweetened beverages, just among children, was linked to a 55% increased risk of obesity. This study further noted that there is sufficient scientific evidence that decreasing your intake of these sugary beverages can reduce the risk of obesity and obesity-related issues, including the development of type 2 diabetes. A separate study in the journal Pediatrics showed that adolescents who reduced their intake of added sugar drinks had significant decreases in their body weight and BMI. So, clearly, limiting your consumption of simple sugar foods, especially sugary drinks, can work to reduce your intake of calories, and it can also help you fight off cravings for other fat-heavy, sugar-filled foods, potentially allowing you to reduce your body weight. But beyond shedding those excess pounds, How else can quitting added sugar benefit your body? Well, it may also increase your nutrient intake and nutrient absorption. Were you aware that sugar doesn't just add on the pounds? It may also keep your body from receiving the full benefits of other healthy foods? This can be partially due to the fact that, by consuming more simple sugar foods, you may be less inclined to eat other fiber and nutrient-dense foods. In fact, an analysis of multiple studies from the journal Circulation found evidence linking diets with high amounts of added sugars to lower micronutrient intake. And if you already suffer from diabetes, it's important to understand that insulin resistance has been found to affect the proper absorption of sugars in the intestines. That can have a negative impact on your body's ability to metabolize nutrients. A study in the journal Frontiers in Immunology showed that maintaining a high simple sugar intake can lead to inflammation, which may further damage your body's nutrient absorption. A small study published in the journal Metabolism even found that diets high in simple sugars may lead to a deficiency in the mineral chromium. That may impair your glucose and lipid metabolism. So it's easy to see that eating more simple sugar foods can easily lead to reduced nutritional health, while on the flip side, cutting high levels of simple sugar out of your diet can help your body increase your intake and absorption of those essential nutrients. But can you guess another way that sugar affects your body? It may not be the first place you think to look for sugar damage, but here's a clue. It's the first place on your body that interacts with sugar. That's right, quitting simple sugars can help you reduce your dental issues. Your mother was right. Eating too much sugar can wreck your teeth. The American Journal of Nutrition confirmed that there is a dynamic relationship between sugars and oral health, and they found that a high intake of dietary sugars can lead directly to dental caries, otherwise known as cavities. When you put simple sugars into your mouth, that interaction creates acids which can eat away at the enamel of your teeth, potentially leading to cavities and tooth decay. In fact, a study published in the Rajiv Gandhi University Journal of Dental Sciences showed that sugar-sweetened beverages are particularly cariogenic. On the other hand, studies also show that getting your sugar via complex carbohydrate sources, like fresh fruit, vegetables, and whole grains, can actually help to reduce the prevalence of dental caries. Plus, other studies show that malnutrition from consuming too many high-sugar foods over complex carbohydrates can increase the risk of oral cancer and oral infectious diseases. So, yes, overdoing your sugar intake can cause some serious damage to your mouth, while maintaining a balanced diet with less simple sugars and more complex carbs can work to improve your oral health, while lowering the risk of cavities and other dental diseases, including periodontitis. Actually, were you aware that studies show that periodontal disease is linked to an increased risk of heart disease? As it turns out, toxins produced by the oral bacteria that feeds on simple sugars can leak into the bloodstream and may cause endothelial dysfunction or damage to the linings of blood vessels. That can contribute to atherosclerosis, or plaque buildup in arteries. So naturally, this leads us right into the next benefit of reducing your added sugar intake. It can also improve your cardiovascular health. A study from JAMA International Medicine concluded that there is a significant relationship between added sugar consumption and an increased risk of death due to cardiovascular disease. Harvard Health notes that high sugar intake can raise blood pressure and increase chronic inflammation, both of which are linked to a heightened risk of heart disease. And of course, as studies show that excess sugar intake can increase cravings and caloric intake, it may lead to weight gain, which can naturally increase your risk of cardiovascular issues, especially if you tend to put on weight in your midsection. Studies show that visceral fat, or belly fat in the abdominal cavity, can raise the risk of a heart attack and cardiovascular disease. Abdominal fat is also linked to fatty liver disease, which can further increase your risk of developing heart disease. And of course, eating high amounts of simple sugars increases your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And having diabetes raises your risk of multiple cardiovascular issues. But on the flip side, studies show that reducing your sugar intake can lower your risk of developing chronic kidney disease, and that can help you minimize your risk of cardiovascular disease. And research suggests that just cutting sugary drinks from your diet can help to lower artery clogging LDL cholesterol and triglycerides, while potentially increasing levels of heart-helping HDL cholesterol. That's the type of cholesterol which helps your body remove excess LDL cholesterol. Plus, a study in the journal Circulation showed that reducing your consumption of sugary sweetened beverages can work to reduce blood pressure. So, yeah, less added sugar can add up to improved cardiovascular health. And this brings us to potentially the biggest benefit for your body if you ditch that added sugar. What is it? Well, naturally, reducing your intake of simple sugars absolutely helps you to lower your risk of diabetes complications. It shouldn't come as a shock to learn that multiple studies have found evidence linking diets high in simple sugars, especially fructose, largely found in sugary drinks, with an increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Exposure to high levels of simple sugars, which are quickly broken down inside the body, can lead to immediate blood sugar spikes and long-term insulin resistance, where muscle cells have a decreased ability to properly absorb glucose as a source of energy. Over time, insulin resistance can cause a cascade of diabetes-related damage to your body, including weight gain, plus an increased risk of developing chronic liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, vision loss, diabetic neuropathy, and the risk of amputations, heart disease, and even Alzheimer's disease. But simply cutting out simple sugars, and even reducing your overall carbohydrate intake, can help to improve your diabetes management. In fact, studies from the Center for Endocrine, Diabetes, and Obesity Research have concluded that sticking to a low-sugar diet can improve glycemic control while aiding weight loss for type 2 diabetics. At the same time, just switching from simple sugar foods to more complex carbohydrate foods, including whole fruits, can also help to reduce your diabetes complications. A study from the journal Diabetologia revealed that low glycemic index fruit consumption as part of a low GI diet can work to lower HbA1c levels, blood pressure, and the risk of developing coronary heart disease. And a study published by the Mayo Clinic showed that reducing your intake of added fructose to 5% of your total daily calories over time can work to improve glucose tolerance, reduce the risk of cardiovascular issues, and it can lower your chances of developing type 2 diabetes. So, it's as plain as day, isn't it? Reducing your sugar intake and cutting way back on those tempting but potentially toxic simple sugar products, especially sugar-sweetened beverages, can help your body on multiple fronts. And it can absolutely help you to minimize your diabetes risk.